Hello, and welcome to episode 1. Who knows if there'll be any more episodes, but we'll see what people think. So I am Nina, otherwise known as Ine on Ravelry. It's Eenae. And I decided to start a podcast. Kind of the reason is that I've had some stuff happen in my family. My stepsister was killed last year in a car accident, and my aunt has cancer, and it's fairly aggressive. And one of the things that I had been wanting to do for probably the last year is do a podcast. And I thought, you never know. Life's too short. So just do what you want to do. So anyway, I have been knitting for probably since about 2004, so 11 years. And I live in a very, very old house, as you can see by the teeny tiny door behind me. 115-year-old house. It's pretty cool. I like it. So I would like to share what I'm knitting with you now. So one of the first things I'm knitting is a shawl design by Molly of a Homespun House. And it's the Whispering Pine shawl. And I started this for my sister for a Christmas present, and obviously I didn't get it done by Christmas. I sort of lost interest because when I went to add the second skein, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can kind of see a line there, kind of a lighter skein. I wasn't alternating skeins, stupid me. And the second skein was substantially lighter, and actually all of them are lighter like this. So I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to rip it out, if I want to over dye it. I haven't decided yet, so it's really just kind of sitting in a bag. But I'm most of the way done. I'm down to, I think I maybe have like 12 more rows before I would do the lace pattern. And the lace is this really pretty kind of pine coney shape. And I was kind of hoping this darker brown would be what it would be. And it's in Manos del Uruguay alpaca silk. I bought it for my sister a couple years ago. She's a knitter as well. I actually taught most of the people in my family how to knit. I taught my mom, I taught my sister, then my mom taught my aunt. So yeah, she didn't want to knit it. She liked the yarn, but she just didn't feel like her skill set was there yet to really do it justice. So I said, well, I could either make you something out of a different kind of yarn, or you can give me the yarn back that I gifted you and I will knit it into something that you would like. And she said, well, I'll give you the yarn and you can knit me a shawl, because I've always wanted to have a shawl. And she wanted kind of a larger one, so it's actually a DK weight, which I think the pattern calls for a heavy fingering, light kind of sport weight. But I figured if I did it in DK, it would be quite a bit larger, which is what my sister wanted. The second thing I'm knitting, and this one I am completely obsessed with. I don't know why, I just am. Because I hate knitting scarves. But this is the 10-stitch blanket by, I believe it's Frankie Brown. And I'm just in love with it. I think it's awesome and it's really cool. I think it's funny that you're just knitting in like a spiral. And this yarn, funny enough, my mom has a knitting group that she kind of goes and hangs out with. They do knit nights twice a week, and they kind of go on road trips together. They go to different yarn shops as they open. We have a fiber festival that happens around the September time frame, and they all go together, and I usually go with them. And around that time frame of the Fiverr Festival, they have a group of ladies that also travels from Indiana to here. And they all stay together in one of the ladies' houses. So they plan dinners, they plan to go to like a winery and stuff like that. And one of the nights they have a stash dive, as they call it, where everybody brings stuff that they just don't love anymore in their stash. And you basically can grab anything that strikes your fancy that you want to have. No paying for it or anything. It's all just kind of an even exchange. It's just to get it a new home where somebody is going to love it more than you do. So in that set of stash, which I got a ton of stuff, but in that set of stash there was, I think, 10 skeins of Cascade Yarns Eco Duo, which is a 50% alpaca merino blend. And there was a piece of it that was kind of knit into what looks like a sweater piece. I don't really know. It's got a garter band here, and then you can see kind of stockinette, and there's actually not as much now as there was because I have been knitting off of this piece first to see what I thought of how the color was going to come. And you can see it actually has like pretty distinctive stripes, which I didn't really care for, but it's ridiculously soft. It's like touching a cloud. So I thought it would stripe much better if I did this these short repeats. So if you're not familiar with the 10 stitch blanket pattern, I actually watched a tutorial on YouTube and I linked to it in my project page by, I believe it's Pink Knits, and she walks you through step by step how to do it. I had never done a mitered corner before, so what you do is you start here in the middle and you knit a small strip, and then you work a mitered corner, and you work another mitered corner and another mitered corner, and then you go back this way, and you're actually picking up stitches and joining as you go, so there's no sewing up when you're done. So on the back you can see you kind of get these little ridges from where you're picking up those stitches, so it's pretty cool. Like, the back is kind of as cool as the front. And I apologize, everything's getting washed out. It is super snowy outside, so it's probably about 2 o'clock or so, and the sun is up, so no matter where I sit in my house, I have a ton of windows, and it's just bright everywhere. So I have the curtains closed even, and it's still very bright. And my daughter is up here, so if you hear her, she's kind of just playing. My baby's asleep, so this is the best time to do it. Okay, so that's whip 2. And then whip number 3. Okay, whip number 3. There she is peeking in. She can't handle it. She really wants to be part of this. So. Okay, whip number 3 is I am making a set of socks for my husband. Okay, sweetie. Can you go play? Can you go in the pink room, please? And play for a little bit? Okay, so whip number 3 is a set of socks for my husband. So I made him one pair probably about 2 months ago. I think I finished them a little bit before Christmas time, and he has just worn them nonstop. He does a lot of kind of going outside and walking in the mornings before the kids are awake, and he also enjoys going out and making fires. We have a lot of land. We have about 1 1/3 acres, and we have an area kind of set aside for making fires. And we actually lost quite a few of our trees in the last year or so to ash borer beetles. So they basically completely kill the tree. They kind of burrow in to the under the bark and suck the God, I forget what it's called. It's like it's not the sap, but it's this other fluid that is basically like the bloodstream of the tree, and they suck all of that out, and so they kill the tree. So once you kind of see all of this woodpecker activity, because woodpeckers start coming, they really, really love them. Delicious. they come and try to eat them, but basically once they get into the tree, there's really nothing you can do. It's just a matter of time. So we had quite a few of them on our property. I think we had like 6 of them. All of our trees were original trees, either planted around the time of when the first people built the house, or you know, prior to the house even being built at all, like when they were clearing the woods for building the house. Megwin, please stop. Thank you. You can sit there quietly and watch. So anyway, long story short, we have a ton of lumber, and we've been enjoying going out and making fires. Megwin and my husband actually made a fire earlier today, so they both smell very campfire-y, right? So he's been enjoying wool socks. He is a total convert to wool now, and he has asked me to make him some more, so I'm happy to oblige. Okay, sorry. We had a little bit of too much energy, so I had to ask my daughter to go play, so she's over next to me, and we'll see how this goes. So anyway, as I was saying, my husband's a total convert to wool now, and he really wants to wear nothing but hand knit socks. I've created a monster, and now I must feed him. So I'm working on a pair out of Patton's Croy, and I think it's red-brown, or no, gray-brown marl. It doesn't mention the red at all, but it has a ton of red, so I think it should be red-brown marl. But here's the first sock. Did I mention that he has ridiculously large feet? Thank you, Megwin. I like it as well. So he wears a size 12 U.S. men's sock or shoe. So his socks take a long time. And here's the second one. So I finished the leg, I've turned the heel, and I'm done with the gussets. So I'm actually just knitting until I get to the toe. He likes plain vanilla. He doesn't care if they match, which is great. So they actually don't match. This thing kills me. Look at the cuffs. Do they look like they're different lengths to you? Because they're not. But isn't that so funny how our brains trick us? I love stuff like that. Because this one's dark, so your eyes and your brain are thinking, oh, it stops right there. But there's actually a couple more rows of rib in the red. And this one, because it's so light, it actually looks bigger, I think, than it is. So, anyway, they are fraternal socks. And he does not care at all. He's like, it's going to go in a boot. Keeps my feet warm, which is great. I love that he's not picky. And then the last thing I'm working on, which again I'm kind of at a point on, so it's in my beautiful yarn bowl. This one was a gift to me from Jessica, who's Jane BG1923 on Ravelry. Every year in the Itty Bitty Knits group, we have all different swaps, but we have an Advent swap. And what you do is you get a mystery partner, so you don't know who you're going to get, and it could be anywhere around the world. And you send one package every day, and some days there are set items, so it'll say like something red, something green, something gold, and then there's specific stuff that you knit as well. So I think we had to knit a Christmas ornament, we knit a winter accessory, stuff like that. But you basically send 24 gifts, they can be any size, and then a special one on the 25th, which is something specific that your swap partner will love. So that was actually my Christmas present on the 25th from her, because I had a yarn bowl from, shoot, why am I blanking on the name? Jenny the Potter. I had got a yarn bowl from Jenny the Potter kind of years ago, before she was really super popular, which now you can't get her stuff at all unless you stand in ridiculous lines. And at the time she came to a fiber show that doesn't even happen anymore called Knitters Connection. So I live in the Columbus area in Ohio, and every year we host TKGA. And so Knitters Connection was the kind of weekend after TKGA. So a lot of people would still hang out and they would vend after TKGA. And I got one of Jenny the Potter's larger yarn bowls, and I had a project in it, and I had not kind of put my work on top. I had set it on my desk, and somehow it got knocked off. My dog got semi-attached to the yarn, and then he got scared, so he ran across the room, pulled the bowl down, and it shattered into like a million pieces. So I was super sad because I love working out of yarn bowls, and I mentioned it on the forum, and she very sweetly remembered that and bought me a yarn bowl. It was so nice. And I think this one's made by a local artisan to her. I don't have the name on here, but if I find it, I'll let you know. It's beautiful though. So anyway, you can tell this is kind of my style. When I talk to people, I go off on these little tangents. I like to talk about stuff. I am a very chatty person. So hopefully you like that. If you don't, it might not be your cup of tea. So anyway, the last thing I'm doing is a pair of gloves for my husband, and they are, as you can see, in black yarn. Black yarn. Yeah. It's a hand paint, and it is a indie dyer. It's by Knitting Notions. The Notions is with a K. They actually come to that fiber festival that I mentioned previously. They come every September, and I usually buy stuff from them because I do really love their yarn. It's really nice. I've never seen it anywhere else, and I don't hear a lot of people mentioning it, but it's really great yarn. So if you ever get a chance, please do try it. So I'll get it a little bit closer so you can see it. So this is, shoot, I forget what they called it. I think they called it like a fisherman's rib. It's knitting into the back loop and passing that stitch over, and it makes it twisted. It takes for flippin' ever to work. This cuff probably took me 2 weeks of knitting. It was ridiculous. I wanted to stab my eyes out with a knitting needle. I really did. Horrible. That's good, sweetie. But I persevered. I think that's part of the reason that these have not been knit on in a little bit. But the next part on the hand is actually Eye of Partridge, which I love that stitch. I really like traditional heel flaps and gussets, and I love ones that are done in Eye of Partridge. I think it's just so pretty. So anyway, you can see it, that there's that Eye of Partridge detail, and it's beautiful. And they really conform to his hand well, and when you take them off, they just shrink right back down, which some other mittens that I've made before, they don't necessarily do that. After a while they do stretch out, but these aren't doing that. So here's the problem. My husband wanted them to be snug because his idea is when he goes bushcrafting, which he's planning on doing starting next year, to do it in the wintertime. He'll be outside probably for, several days at a time, and so he wants to have kind of a multi-tiered system for his hands so that he never completely has to take everything off of his hands and would have exposed skin. So his idea was we would have a pair of knitted gloves, and then a leather work glove over that, and then potentially a knitted mitten over top of all of that. And then he could, alternate the mitten on and off. He could alternate the leather work gloves on and off, and at bare minimum, he would always have the sock yarn gloves on. So that's what these are for. He wanted them to be quite snug because they would be under all of those other layers. So this is a 64 stitch, which is great. Happy to do it that size, but the unfortunate thing is that while it's tight to his hand, this part of his hand, it doesn't get up there. It doesn't even get up there on my hand, which is kind of weird. I don't know if it's something with the pattern. It's the char pattern, if you're curious, on Ravelry, and it is a well-written pattern. But here's the problem. Where I put this little marker right here is where I'm supposed to be putting the thumb stitches on hold and then casting on 2 stitches and somehow having that join. Well, if you can see, I've got like a good 1/2 inch there. If I put just 2 stitches, it'd have to be way up here for that to happen. Well, now the rib is on my hand. It's not even on my wrist anymore. So I think what I need to do is I'm gonna work several more rows of just the Eye of Partridge pattern, not increasing at all, just you know, working straight. But I obviously have to make sure that I write all of that down so that I can replicate it on the second glove, and I just haven't had the mental capacity for that, honestly. And these are a little more fiddly. They take longer to work just because it's an Eye of Partridge, and I have a baby and I have a 5-year-old. Don't get a lot of time to knit. I kind of need stuff that I can pick up and put down and just knit like 1 or 2 rows and just as easily throw it down if I need to. This one is not that. So I'm kind of having to knit this at night. Basically, Friday night or Saturday night is all I have to work on it. If I manage to outlast them, which almost never happens because I like my sleep. So those are kind of semi-hibernating. And if you can't tell by the clickety-clickety, I knit with 2 circulars. Does anybody do this anymore except for me? Everybody's talking about magic loop or DPNs. I never hear anyone talk about knitting with 2 circs anymore. And that's my preferred method. I've tried magic loop. I just don't like it. Mom, DPNs, I feel like they're too fiddly.
Mom, is this
just one second. It is part of your wooden sushi.
Wooden sushi?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that sticks on your wooden sushi. Okay. Yeah, so 2 circulars. That's what I like. And I love, these are Addy Sock Rockets. They're my absolute favorite needles. I actually saved up all of my Christmas money, all my birthday money, kind of everything I got as gifts throughout the year.
Don't you want?
And I bought a set of the Addy Clicks.
Mama, ask you something.
In a little bit, sweetie. You can ask me in a little bit. Remember our deal? Okay.
I want beads to have rainbow in their video. Okay.
So anyway, Addy Clicks. I went and bought a set of them. My lovely team that I work with at work, whenever they get me gifts, which they got me a Christmas gift and a Boss's Day gift. And for both of those, they got me a $40 gift card to the local yarn store, which is just so generous of them. They're so sweet. So I saved both of those, and then just kind of saved when I get $10 here or there from people. And the yarn shop owner teased me that I paid every possible way that I could pay because I had cash, I had gift cards, I had my credit card. I said, well, I didn't use a check and I didn't use like the vanilla Visa cards. And she's like, okay, fair point. So anyway, I love the Addy Clicks as well. They're really nice. The only thing I don't like them for is like singles. So I have a bit of the Mad Tosh, it's not the vintage, it's the one that's a single. I don't remember what it's called. But that base, it doesn't slide well on the part where you click it together, but I haven't had any trouble with any other type of yarn. So I think it's just that one particular base. It's pretty splitty anyway. I don't know that I would knit anything like a garment out of it. I bought some of it in the unicorn tails because I'm also making a Hexie Puff blanket because apparently I love scrappy yarn blankets.
Look what I did all by myself.
Cool, sweetie. but I don't think that I would use it for a normal garment. Please don't shake the table, sweetie. Okay, so that's kind of what I got on my needles. I wanted to share other crafts as well. So one of the things that I love about podcasts is that I find out about things that I wouldn't normally know about. I watch a ton of podcasts, and I also listen to a bunch of podcasts, and I apologize, my hair is really crazy today. I don't know what's going on with it, but it looks like I have a weird little spike out of my head. But there is hair there, I promise. It's not just, I don't just have a weird spike on my head. I digress. So one of the podcasts that I listen to is the Just One More Row podcast. It's an audio-only podcast, and Dana and Brittany host it. Dana is a yarn dyer. I forget what her dyeing company is called. Unwind Yarn Company, that's what it is. Okay, I knew I would remember. But they're just fabulous. I love them. They're hilarious. I've been listening to them for quite a while. They have a lot of episodes. And Brittany on that podcast mentioned that she was cross-stitching again and hadn't done it in years. And she talked about the frosted pumpkin stitchery. And oh my God, Brittany has me completely addicted to the frosted pumpkin stitchery. I've bought like almost all of their stuff.
What is this?
It is an apron, sweetie. There you go. Okay, so last year they had a sampler that went all year long, and it was the first thing that I bought from them, and it's based on fairy tales, and it's a mystery sampler, which was nice. Each month you got just one block out of the total, which is a little more doable for me, because I don't have a ton of crafting time. I live a ways from my job, so I have about a 40-minute commute both ways. So the earliest I get home is about 6. I have to nurse the baby, then I eat my dinner, then I play with Megwin for a little while, and then usually I have maybe an hour before I have to go to bed if Joshua, who's my son, will cooperate and crawl around on the floor a little bit and play. He's 9 months, so he's kind of going through the separation anxiety phase, and he just really wants to be held a lot. He's been teething, so long story short, not a ton of crafting time. And I have to obviously pick between knitting and cross-stitching, which knitting usually wins. But anyway, here it is. Here's what I have so far. And it's coming up backwards, but this says Once Upon a Time. And each month has the name of the month. And you can see there's Snow White, Frog Prince, 3 Little Pigs. This one is Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, Jack and the Beanstalk, Princess and the Pea. There's a teeny pea, I love it. And then Thumbelina. This one is actually Brementown Musicians, but I skipped it for right now because at the time Megwin had not heard that story, so she was not super interested in it, and she really likes watching me cross-stitch. So I skipped it, but we've read it since then, and she really thinks it's a funny story, so I need to go back and do that one. And then this one's obviously Rapunzel, Cinderella. This one I haven't done a ton on yet. This is the one I'm working on right now, but it is, oh my God, Red Riding Hood. And then the last month is Hansel and Gretel, but again, I haven't got to that one yet. Someday it will be done. And then this one will, I'll frame it. I'm going to get it professionally framed, and I'll hang it in Megwin's bedroom.
I'm stuck.
Uh-oh. Hang on. We've got a hair stuck in a stitch marker.
Stitch marker.
Good job, sweetie. Okay. And then this year, they released their new sampler, and the really nice thing that they did this year is they asked to have people vote and see what they wanted to have for the sampler. So the 2 choices they had were Under the Sea and literary themed, and I voted for literary themed because I love classic literature, and that's what won. So this year's sampler is a little bit different. It same thing, it's kind of one frame at a time, but sweetie, stop moving that, please. You're gonna make people seasick. Meg, when I'm not kidding.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. You can just look. All right. So there are frames for each one. And up at the top, there's like a banner that says Storytime Classics. I haven't stitched that yet. I haven't got to work on this one very much at all because I've been working obviously on the Once Upon a Time one when I get time to stitch. But I wanted to stitch a little bit of it just to make sure that I felt good about the fabric. Honey, can you stop moving the table? It makes the camera shake. Thank you. Because this one is 32 count linen, and this is actually the first project that I had worked on with linen before, so doing the over 2 stitches was a new experience for me. I hadn't cross-stitched since I was maybe 20, 21. I'm 37 now, so it had been quite a while. And I had never stitched on anything except for Aida cloth. I think I'm getting the hook. So anyway, it's fine. I did do it over with just 2 threads. Typically I use 3 because I think it fills in the stitches a little bit better. On this one's 28 count linen, which is the equivalent of 14 count Aida for those who are in the know on cross stitch. So this one is the equivalent of 16 count Aida. And I think 2 threads are perfectly fine. So the first month was Alice in Wonderland. And let's see if I can get it to not be crazy washed out. It's this really beautiful, just gray blue. And the other thing that I love about rediscovering cross stitch is the fact that I didn't know there were all these hand dyes. It's kind of like discovering when you know that there's more than just a big box store yarn. When you first discover indie dyers, I don't know if anybody else kind of had that experience, but thank you. You just realize there's a whole other world out there, and there's all this beautiful artistic stuff that you didn't know about, and you want to own all the things. So now I have the same obsession with cross stitch. But you can kind of see it's all this really beautiful hand-dyed fabric. And then the floss as well is hand-dyed, and it has this just light variegation. This is a super light pink.
Mom,
but
there's something stuck back here.
Okay, sweetie. Can you not be stuck back there? I don't want you to get hurt. Please move. Thank you.
How can I get the thing that's stuck back there?
I don't think you can. I'll get it when I'm done. So anyway, first month was Alice in Wonderland, and each of them is going to have this little top part that has a symbol that makes you think of that story. So this one is a little watch. I haven't filled in the clock face yet. And then you can kind of see I've done a little bit. This is the Cheshire Cat. He's going to be on a branch. This is Alice's hair. And then I think the White Rabbit is sitting right here. So I haven't started him yet either, but you get the idea. And the second month was Secret Garden, and then I think this month comes out later today. So I'm 3 months behind now.
Mom,
Aha!
moving by
It's a
itself.
beautiful picture that's moving by itself. So this podcast is already getting really long. Apparently I can just talk. So the things that I want to work on next, when I finish Josh's socks, Josh is my husband, I'm going to cast something else on the Bakery Bears podcast, and I think it's Knicks Knits, are co-hosting a spring sock knit-along. So I was thinking I would cast on a pair of socks for that, because I've noticed that a couple pairs of my socks are finally starting to wear out. I started knitting socks almost immediately after I started knitting. They were maybe my 3rd or 4th project, and I love them. I do not like any other heels except for a heel flap. You'll just have to ignore her.
Look what's moving by itself.
Yep, it's a hook. I see it.
Moves by itself.
Uh-huh. Not moving because you're moving it at all. Yep. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Heel flaps. heel flaps fit me the best. I do not like short row heels. They just don't work for me. I have a really high arch, and they just don't fit me. I've tried them. I've tried lots of different kinds. I don't like them. I mess with it if it's working. So I wanted to do the, I think, Zigzagular socks by Susie, who's Prairie Girl Susie on Ravelry from the Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. I'm sorry. Megwin, please stop. And I think I want to use this yarn. So this is Spark Story. And it's backwards. I'll have to figure out how you all flip that around. I don't know how you all do that. That's interesting. And it's their Tuffy 4-ply sock yarn. So it's a 75-25 blend. 463 yards. But it's like this really pale blue. Oh yeah, you can totally see it. And it's got these pops of dark blue and yellow. And it's just gorgeous. I love it. So I think I want to make...
Want to see something that's gorgeouser than that?
I do, but aren't you supposed to not be part of the video?
Mm-hmm.
Because we made a deal that I will play with you when I'm done? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Alright, so that's what I think will be next on the needles. And if I do another episode, we'll see. We'll see what the reaction is and if people want me to do more. But if I do another episode, I think what I want to make part of the kind of, I don't know what you call it, segments, is shopping my stash. One of the things that I'm trying to do is just use the stash that I have. So I have a ton of yarn. I've basically bought pretty nice yarn since the beginning. The person who taught me to knit, they actually took me to a local yarn store. So the first scarf that I ever knit was out of
noise spray.
Please stop. Was out of Misty Alpaca, the Alpaca Grande, the baby Alpaca Grande. So Misty Alpaca, baby Alpaca Grande in just a natural gray, and I made just a normal garter stitch scarf, but I was basically ruined for all yarn going forward. So I started just buying yarn like crazy, you know, like you do when you start knitting, and you just, I don't know, I just started buying yarn like crazy because I wanted to. And I didn't have kind of projects in mind for it, so I have a lot of single skeins of sock yarn, which obviously now I do knit socks, and I've just this year got into knitting shawls and wearing shawls more. So I've knit an Ishbel shawl. I have another Whispering Pines on the needles, that's for me, with fiber optics yarn. It's kind of a dark teal, and I don't have that with me. I didn't show that one. I'll have to show it next time. So anyway, I have a lot of just single skeins. I have a lot of sweater quantities. I have a lot of stuff that I've bought to make things for the kids, and I want to use those. So I don't always have ideas of what patterns I want to use, and I think sometimes people, when you show them the yarn, have a better idea than you do of what it might be good as. So one of the things I'd like to do is maybe pick a quantity of yarn that I would like to knit and show it and see if anybody has ideas, and I could talk about kind of what I want to knit with it and maybe some of the different choices that I have that I'm kind of choosing between, and if people like those or if they have better ideas, I would love to hear it. And just in general, I'd like to hear what people want to know about. So I know these kind of have a script, if you will, that it seems like a lot of people talk about what they're working on, what they finished. Megwin, stop. So people talk about what they're working on, what they finished. what's up next, and then they just sort of talk about normal life stuff. So you can certainly do that, but I'm also happy to just tell lots of stories because that's the thing that I like to do. So I like to talk about the stories around things. And
I'm trying to look at your video, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of ruining it.
That's okay. As long as you're quiet, you can be next to it. I'm almost done. So anyway, if you have ideas or if you like it, you want to see more, please let me know. And I guess I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.